A very good morning to all of you, students of class 8th. I again welcome you all to the third class of social science for this week. As we know, we have to complete the chapter in this class, but before that, let us quickly recap the points which we have discussed in the previous two classes. Beginning with the meaning and introduction of the chapter, which was ruling the countryside, where we saw under the able guidance of Shah Alam, Mughal emperor, the Diwani rights were given to East India Company and it was signed under the reign of Robert Clive. Then children, we saw that on 12th August 1765, when Diwani rights were given to East India Company had to maintain friendly relations with the rulers who have ruled in the past, because it was not easy to overthrow all the rulers who have ruled the Indian states, or they were having the kingship of different states. So Britishers had to maintain the cordial relations with them. After getting the Diwani rights, children, the East India Company had two objectives in their mind. Firstly, to yield crops which they needed and colonize the countryside. They wanted to colonize the countryside, plus they wanted to emphasize on the production of agricultural outputs, because it was the only production in the Bengal region which was fetching East India Company lot of revenue, and it was giving lot of profits. Because of that, the total purchase of the different resources from the country in itself were just entirely meant by the revenue of Bengal only. So they were getting that profit. Therefore, it was necessary to emphasize and focus on the development of agriculture in the Bengal. Then we saw, children, that revenue for the company was not that easy to get. Since Bengal was facing so many difficulties, firstly, the farmers were facing a lot of problem. Then Bengal was hit by famine. Then after that, children, the economy of Bengal, remember we discussed in the last class, was declining. As the economy was declining, then the potters, artisans were facing huge losses. Peasants were unable to pay the revenues, and then agriculture was collapsing. It was deteriorating. Then, apart from all these, the Bengal famine, which has killed 10 million people of Bengal, ultimately the total economy was thrashing down of Bengal. Then it led to the urge of increase and improvement in agricultural practices to have better production through agricultural, children, because if there will be more production, children, farmers will get good income, and then they are ready to pay the revenue. But the problem here was the permanent settlement. The permanent settlement, however, didn't prove that it was useful for the company, since the East India Company thought to devise different strategy of collecting the revenue. I gave you the example of a businessman. So East India Company started to set permanent settlement system to collect the revenue, where, children, we know the revenue was fixed. After that, when permanent settlement did not work, children, East India Company again devised a new strategy, which was Mehelwadi system. After Mehelwadi system, children, Munro system. Munro is simply meaning the riots, or the Rayatwari system, which is about the farmers only. So the three systems to collect the revenue: number one, permanent settlement; number two, Mehelwadi system; and number three, children, the Rayatwari system. And in these three systems, the major differences were: number one, revenue was fixed in permanent settlement; then Mehelwadi, revenue was not fixed, but each plot was added to the total revenue of the village. Whereas in Rayatwari system, revenue was not fixed, each field was assessed and measured properly. Second point of difference, children, zamindars were ordered to collect the revenue from the fields, from the different parts of Bihar. In permanent settlement, zamindars were collecting, if you remember. Then Mehelwadi system, it was, instead of zamindars, the revenue was collected by the village headmen. Rayatwari system, children, the Britishers themselves collected the revenue because they were assessing the lands properly. Now, in spite of children devising three different ways to collect the revenue, children, again we could see that there was nothing going well. All was not well, the heading which is given in your chapter. So pay attention to this point, why things were not going well in spite of devising these strategies. Children, under the Rayatwari system, peasants were charged with a very high rate of interest. Then they started deserting the countryside as it became impossible for them to pay tax. Children, anybody, a farmer who himself is struggling to feed his family, is being levied with so much of high rate of interest with the taxes, the farmer won't be able to pay back the revenue. Therefore, it was impossible for the peasants to pay back the revenue. Then many of the company officials were in the view of the new system of collection with the help of peasants in becoming rich. But this never happened. Since Britishers had second thought of mind, that in spite of getting these revenue, they also wanted to collect the money for themselves and become rich. Britishers were not dependent on the revenue generated from Indian territories in the form of taxes. They levied, but they also decided to use the crops of the country, and after that, children, in order to earn profit, children, the revenue which was generated. So children, in order to earn profit, the revenue generated from Indian territories in the form of taxes, they levied, but they also decided to use the crops of the country in order to earn profit in the trading business. This was studied, this was the study which came to be, out about the Britishers, because they wanted to exploit the resources of India, as the revenue which was generated was used by the Britishers, plus they wanted to utilize all the crops also. Now let us see how they wanted to utilize the crops. The crops for Europe. Which crops were beneficial for Europe were being enforced by the Britishers to being grown in India. By the late 19th century, children, Britishers tried to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo in various parts of India. Opium is a kind of drug which is being taken, and then indigo is a dye, a pigmented crop which gives rich blue color. So indigo. These two crops were in huge demand in Europe. So the Britishers forced our Indian cultivators to grow these two crops. And in such as jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in UP, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and Punjab rice in Madras. All the places which were rich in the production of specific crop which could benefit the Britishers were being asked by the Britishers to the Indian cultivators to grow these crops so that they could take maximum possible utilization and benefit, children. Then basically, therefore, the more emphasis was laid on the cultivation of indigo. But why was it so important to cultivate indigo? Was there any reason, children? Yes. Let us come to the reasons why indigo was specifically being forced on Indian farmers to be cultivated. Number one, we should know, first of all, before getting into the points, you should know basically what is the meaning of indigo and why it is used. Children, basically indigo is a plant from which a blue powdered substance is being derived so that it could be used to dye clothes in rich blue color or indigo color. You all know the 7 colors of rainbow, which is Vibgyor. So after violet comes the indigo. That rich blue color was being given by which plant? Indigo plant. Number 2, children, it can only be grown in tropical climates. So climate of India was suitable for its growth. So the first reason was it was giving rich blue color which could benefit Europe for dyeing the clothes. Number 2, India is a tropical country. Therefore, the climate is best suited for the cultivation of indigo, children. Then children, third reason, it was of high demand in Europe because it gave a rich blue color and it was used for dyeing the clothes. In Europe, a plant named woad, WOAD. Please do not get confused with the word wood. Children, it is a woad. Again, a plant, WOAD, woad, which was cultivated in Europe and it was also used for dyeing the clothes. But it did not give that rich color like indigo. So the demand of indigo started rising in Europe, children. Then children, one interesting fact about woad and indigo is that the woad cultivators were so worried about the tough competition that they were facing because of indigo, that they pressurized the respective governments to ban the import of indigo. Children, anywhere where specific business is being taken place, children, there if you see the growth of a particular brand, other brands are going to criticize that brand because that brand is not of that country. Then they will give the excuses that this brand is from outside. Let our own cultivators, let our own producers get the possible benefit. So the woad cultivators were worried because the demand for indigo was rising and rising. Therefore, they asked their different governments in Europe to ban the import of indigo, and indigo was being imported from India. After that, children, not only English but the French, Caribbean island, the Portuguese in Brazil, the Spanish in Venezuela also started cultivating indigo plants. While the demand for indigo was increasing, its supply fell to half between 1783 and 1789 due to various reasons. See, demand was increasing a lot. Everybody started using indigo, but the supply was decreasing. During which years? 1783 to 1789, children. Excuse me. As there were less supply, the British dyers became keener to produce indigo, and this point they turned to India to meet their needs. Since, children, the supply was getting low, then at this point the Britishers were looking after which country? They were looking for India to meet the needs of indigo plant. Then we will see the next heading, children. Britain turns to India. Means Britain coming to India, Britain looking over to India for its own need, for solving its own purpose. The demand for indigo was rising day by day in Europe. Therefore, the company decided to expand indigo cultivation in India. So, Bengal was the largest exporter of indigo. About 95% of the indigo was imported by Britain from which region? Bengal. Therefore, as the indigo trade started growing, many of the commercial agents and the company officials started investing in the indigo business. Children, everywhere we see the new style of business. See, as this pandemic broke out, children, you can understand with this simple example. As soon as this pandemic, COVID-19 started breaking out in different countries, you have seen many of the businessmen have started turning over their business to sanitizers through these masks and everything, dealing with this situation, children. So this is the current business because the demand is growing and growing only. So most of the businessmen have switched over to the business of sanitizers, mask, different protective shields for doctors and everyone, PPT kit. So people are investing in this business because this is the current need of the hour. All right, children. Therefore, the British officials started having the forceful cultivation of indigo in Bengal because 95% of the indigo which was imported by Britishers or the Britain was being given by Bengal. Now, children, how indigo was cultivated? We will see indigo was cultivated under two systems which are as follows. Number one, NIJ, N-I-J. Note down the spelling, N-I-J. In this system, take a note, the planter produced indigo on the land which was under his control. Means the total control over the land was by the planter only who was growing indigo. Right? Either he was the owner of that land or he had rented it for indigo. Means all the control was within the hands of the planter. Then second system, Rayati, RYOTI, Rayati. Under this system, children, the planters entered into the contract with the ryots or village headmen. In this contract, according to this, 25% of the land was exclusively kept for the cultivation of indigo, and the loans were provided. Just see the running business of indigo, children. Number one, the system was niche cultivation. In this, the total control of production was in the hand of the planters. Second system was Rayati system. In this, there was a contract where out of the total land, children, 25% of the land was kept aside for the cultivation of indigo, children. Now, the planters used to provide the seeds and drill to the farmers, and in return they had to take care of the plants. But soon the ryots realized that this system was not an easy, because they got trapped in the cycle of loans which were never ending, and the income they received through indigo cultivation was very, very less. Even the fertility of the land, children, was decreased due to the regular production of indigo from the same piece of land. Now, after getting to realize these important things, when the planters got to realize, number one, their land was getting depleted, the fertility of the soil was going down, they were not getting much income, they were not getting any profit, the total income was very less. All these things just started getting accumulated in the minds of the planters, and hence after this, as the system of indigo plantation was very oppressive, all the peasants became rebellious. Obviously, when something is going beyond your patience level, you try to break out. Therefore, these reasons were there in the minds of the planters to revolt, and hence comes the next topic of the chapter, which is Blue Rebellion. And after, now let us see the revolt which was being executed by whom? The indigo planters. Children, in March 1859, a rebellion broke in Bengal. Many of the ryots refused to pay rents. Not only this, they attacked the indigo factories. At some places, the village headmen were forced to enter into a contract by the planters and supported this rebellion. So, people were pressurizing the village headmen also now, because at any cost the planters did not want to grow indigo. So peasants at some places, children, thought that they would get support from the Britishers, but it was not like this. Britishers became cautious after the revolt of 1857. So they brought military to safeguard planters into the indigo districts, children. Children, when you get to know something happens after a revolt breaks out, so you get mentally prepared for any kind of activity later after that. Therefore, Britishers were very smart to play. They brought their military support into the indigo districts. So this was the Blue Rebellion. From the name only you will get to know Blue Rebellion. Okay, that indigo cultivation rebellion, which distrusted the farmers and had put lot of pressure in their mind. Therefore, these indigo planters started Blue Rebellion. Now, as Indigo Commission, after all this revolt, Queen Victoria ordered magistrate, which was Ashley Eden, to issue a notice stating that ryots would not be forced to enter into the indigo contracts. As Indigo Commission was set up to look into the matter, the commission came up with the following conclusions. So Queen Victoria had to come in between the situation, seeing such kind of revolts. What she stated, she issued a notice specifically in which it was said that ryots, that is the village headmen, will not be forced. Britishers cannot force the ryots to enter into the indigo contracts like earlier they were doing. So children, what were the conclusions of the notice which was issued by Ashley Eden through Queen Victoria? Number one, planters were found guilty. Number two, planters were coercing means forcing the riots to enter into the contracts. Number 3, indigo cultivation was not profitable for riots. Number 4, the riots were asked to fulfill the existing contracts, but they got the right to refuse for indigo cultivation in future. So finally, the blame was partially, means half of the blame was on the planters. Since they were at fault, they forced the village headmen to come into the contract of revolting against the Britishers, isn't it? But they were given this liberty that complete the orders, complete the contracts which you have signed, but it is your wish that you may not get into further contract of indigo cultivation. So children, after the revolt, as production of indigo came to an end, Bengal planters shifted to Bihar. There also they faced similar revolt known as Champaran revolt in 1917, which was supported by Mahatma Gandhi. So that comes to an end to this chapter, children. Hope you people have comprehended the chapter, but this is my humble request, children. Please go through the chapter again after listening to this video, and then just note down all the written work which I am attaching in your Google Classroom app with this class. Thank you so much, children. Have a nice day.